All right, good afternoon to everybody. Blessings on your life. Of course, we all know it is another day that the Lord has made, and we're going to be glad and rejoice in it. We're going to have another discussion today. I'm not going to call it a tabletop talk, although I am at the table, but that's not what I'm going to call it. We're just going to talk a little bit today. And I want us to hone back in on the issues of life, especially as it relates to altars that we elevate, generational curses, and ancestral issues, bondages, struggles, things that repeats itself because it is attached to the bloodline. These things can be notated in my book. It is very truncated. I don't get into deep detail with it, but it does highlight it. It touches your taste buds, for a lack of better way of putting it. Your interest to delve into areas that perhaps we are very unfamiliar with, and that has a tremendous impact in our lives. Most churches, most teaching platforms do not deal to the measure that they need to of spiritual warfare, and especially as it relates to the watches of the day. That is something that has been missed, has been overlooked. When I was coming up as a young Christian and a young man in the body of our local assembly, we didn't discuss these types of things. I don't know if it's because it was taboo, or we just didn't have the information. I'm not sure why we did not, or if the congregation was not ready for it. It could be none of the above, or all of the above, or just a few of the above. I don't know. But we need to get into it and really unpack it to better understand where we are positioned in our journey with the Lord, but also with where we are in life right now. So I want to dig back into it, and I am going to be, I don't want you to think that I am completely moved away from this book, because I am not. In this, it's going to deal with attacks during certain watches or periods of the night and of the day. And with that, there's some tension with the warfare that God has called us to eradicate, if you will, and to come against, eradicate, to come against. But we don't come against it because we're not aware of what it is and what it is that we are fighting. And so a lot of us were walking around with ancestral problems. That's just in the bloodlines, in the bloodline, and we've become acceptant to it. We have accepted it because it is in our culture. It is in our blood. It happened to Mama Nim. It happened to Daddy Nim. And when we look back, that's just how we are. Mama lost her husband at between 30 and 40. The daughter from Mama, she lost her husband between 30 and 40. And so there's a bloodline. There is an enemy that is attacking. I'm just giving you an illustration. I use this all the time. I mean, you go back into the bloodline, and as far as you can go back, the women lost their hair to alopecia. Why is this happening? And so there's a lot of stuff as a result of this. We market it, and they got all kind of stuff out there that you use because they say, okay, if you do this, it's a remedy for alopecia. And you take these shots, you go to these doctors. They don't know, they don't have answers. I've told y'all before, if there's a situation and the doctors can't help you, there's no science out there that is an exact science, then it is a spiritual issue. And it is something that the enemy is bringing to you that is deep into the bloodline, and he's going to use that, and he dances with this thing. It goes back and forth from one thing to another. It may not be alopecia, it may be diabetes, it may be gout, it may be high blood pressure. Whatever the case is, We as a society, we've grown to put band-aids on it, right? And that means a band-aid is just simply saying that I don't know, I can't help you. It's beyond my education. It's beyond my resources. I don't have a clue, but I got a degree. I went to medical school, and so I'll give you something, try it. And that's really where we are today. It's just a matter of, just trying things. So let's get into our lesson. I want you to stay with me today. Today is going to be, in my opinion, it's going to be a very fascinating lesson, and we need to hone into this because it's going to bless you. Now, I'll come up with a title at some point, as I've said to you all before. Most of the time when I come, the Lord will give me one or two words, and those words are doors. I go through the door, and once I go through the door, then the rest of the message comes. I'm not one that lays out a message and I go verbatim by what is on the page. I'm not that kind of guy. I get lost. My brain don't work that way. I'm not wired that way. I can have 5 messages going on at one time. And so you would wonder, and God literally, he's talking to me and I'm downloading 5 messages all at one time. And you say, well, how can that happen? It's easy. He'll give me a word or 2 or 3. And with that word or 2 or 3, all I do is focus on those 2 or 3 words. And with that, there's a whole message. With that, there's a whole book. And I can have 2, 3, 4, 5 of those going at one time. And so today, this is what one of those are. So I don't have a title as of yet. I may get one as we move along. Now, I want to go to the book of Genesis, and I want to focus our attention on Genesis chapter 12 because I think that it is very germane to where we are today. And I want to read from 2 versions. I need you to stick with me today because I'm going to teach a little bit, but it's going to have some very unique values that you can apply to your life. And so it says here in Genesis chapter 12, and I'm reading this. I'm going to volley back and forth. Just it's going to be there's a method to my madness. This is the King James version, and it says, "Now the Lord had said." I need you to hear that, to underscore that, because it is very important. It says, "The Lord had said unto Abram, Get thee out of thy country and from thy kindred and from thy father's house unto a land that I will show thee. And I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse them that curseth thee. And in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed." And so Abram departed. Now, that's the King James version. And you guys will hear me say a lot of times that I read from the King James. I read from all of them, but the King James has a punch, and it has something in it that a lot of the other versions don't have. Now, this one is the NASB version. And I'm going to give you this because I want you to contrast this, because if no one points this out, you will read and you will think that you're capturing what the Word of God is saying, and you may not be capturing it at all. And pastors, a lot of pastors don't know this, and a lot of seminaries don't teach this, and some of them don't know it either, because they will stick to a certain version like the NRSV, New Revised Standard Version. Yeah, they'll stick to that one. And so here in the NASB, it says this: "Now the Lord said to Abram, Go forth from your country." Now, y'all know the rest of it here. You can go back and forth and look at it yourself. But I want you to see something, because this is important and this is very big. It says, "Now the Lord said to Abraham." That's not true. The truth of the matter is the Lord had said. That's why I say you need to underscore that. The Lord had said to Abraham, "Get thee." The reason why that is so important, that the Lord had said, is because some of the things that we are missing as we journey towards our Heavenly Father is that God has already spoken to us in the past. Now, I need you to hear me. Most of us don't move until Genesis 12. Okay. Now, I understand that Genesis 12 is making reference to God telling Abraham to go somewhere. But the truth of the matter is that God had spoken to Abraham way before Genesis 12. But we live in this Genesis 12 world where it's almost like when we mention it is when God first talked about it. That's not true. Typically, 9 times out of 10, when you see certain things like this, and when God said, and when the word says God had said, that's past tense. So that means that it's somewhere in the past, Abram's historical place of where he came from, God was already speaking to him about a situation that wrapped around his father, or wrapped around his nativity, wrapped around his bloodline. And God had already told him that this is not good, and I need you to depart. I need you to depart from this. Now, Abram was disobedient, and we see later how many years before he moved on that, we don't know. The Bible does not tell us, but the Bible gives us indicators when it says that the Lord God had said, or the Lord had said, past tense. But that is critical to our purpose. That is critical to our blessing, the whole nine. It is, because a lot of us, we wonder, why is it that I'm still in the same place? And you're still in the same place. Stay with me. I'm going somewhere. You're still in the same place because you didn't move when God said move. It's like that. When I say move, you move. Just like that. When I say move, you move. Something like that. Ludicrous. And so we don't do it. And so we stay stagnant in this place because God is trying to get us to a place of elevation, and we may not reach that place for 10, 20 years. It's not that God will renege on his word. We can see it here in Genesis 12 when God had said, and God still blessed Abraham, but could Abraham have been blessed prior to that? We don't know that. But it is put here for our education. As I've said before, the Bible wasn't written to you, but it was written for you. It's for you to learn from. So it's not written to you, but it's written for you. When we go back to Exodus 12, because right here in Genesis 12, it's talking about leaving your father's house. Now, today's message is going to deal with departure, and it's going to highlight some things that we need to leave from, but we are so glued to it. We are so concretized, meaning it's unmovable. It's like it's a jackhammer. You'll need a jackhammer in order to separate us from it. We deal with this situation today in our lives. We are rooted into our culture. We are rooted into our bloodline, not understanding that our culture, our bloodline, mama, daddy, them, everything about them is not good for us. Now, let me see. I don't know if I can find it quick enough, because I don't want to. In Exodus 12, I just want to highlight something here, because this is important as well to where I'm trying to get to today. So in in Exodus 12, beginning at verse number 3, and I'm giving you truncated pieces of this because I don't have time. So 12 and 3 in Exodus says, "Speak ye unto the congregation of Israel, saying, in the 10th day of the month, they shall take to them every man a lamb according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for an house. And in the household, and if the household be too little for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next unto his house take it according to the number of souls. Every man according to his eating shall make your count for the lamb." Now, when it says to take it with your neighbor, that is not saying that you just take a portion of your neighbor's lamb because they have one, because your family size is too small. When he said neighbor, it's still saying to take part into another family's lamb that speaks to your household, that is congruent with your household. Now, I'm kind of giving you a little excerpt of what my next book is going to be, Saved from Your Father's House. So we're going to deal with today this issue of departure, and I'm setting you up with this framework from Genesis 12 and then from Exodus 12, and we're still dealing with a father, and it is fathers that have issues, fathers that are in error. And God is trying to address this issue with the fathers. When I say fathers, it's not gender related. It is related to the bloodline. It is what you come out of. Now, that being said, there are three fathers that I will make mention of today. Three fathers. You have a physical father, you have a spiritual father, and you have the father of all evil, which is the enemy. And he is the one that is responsible for the things that God in Genesis 12 and also in Exodus 12 that he is trying to get us away from. Y'all stay with me. I'm going somewhere. I'm sorry. I got to set this up. And so when we look at a physical father as it relates to Genesis 12, when God tells Abram to leave his father's house, which was Haran, get away from your nativity, it is twofold. Number one, he's saying that I need you to leave the bloodline. I want to do something with the bloodline, because that bloodline that you carry in me, the blessing that I have and the purpose that I have on your life will not work together. And so I'm going to require you to be made free. It's a difference between being set free and made free. I'm going to require you to be made free, and you're going to have to go through a process. And so you're going to have to get the out. You're going to have to get the out. And so one requires that you leave internally. That is the bloodline. That is what you are made of. The other one is get the out environmentally. That's externally. I need you to physically to leave your father's house, because I don't want the residue of where you come from. I don't want the residue of none of this stuff to be attached to you because of the blessing that is on your life. Now, I'm saying that because I also don't want you to think that that's all it is to it, because this is very intricate. It is perplexing. The next thing here, we have a spiritual father. And I know a lot of y'all, you're trapped even in this area, and that is also speaking to get the out. Now, I'm not telling nobody to leave church. I'm not telling nobody to find another pastor. I'm not saying that. I'm just giving you information for you to evaluate. So a lot of times what we will find out is that the place where we're getting spiritually fed is not really, does not carry the wherewithal, does not have the substance or sustenance to carry us over to where we need to be. And so oftentimes God will be telling you, God had said to Abraham, God had said to Judy, God had said to Fred, God had said to Bobby, God had said to Donnie, God had said to Shanita or whatever, to leave. Okay. Now I'm not trying to kick up no dust and start no problems, but sometimes you try to blot it out because you say, no, that's the devil telling me, and then the pastor come back with a real good sermon or whatever. But what you don't see, what you can't go back and audit or notate, is how your life was really made better. And so that becomes the gauge now to determine whether or not you have taken a lamb according to your father's house or your father's problem. You have to take it according to referencing Exodus 12. And so when you look at this, God is a good God. He won't leave you in the same place. And so he will whisper. And even in my book, it talks about, even with Job, my book, While Men Slept, the spiritual warfare, there's a part in there. And one of the watches, it talks about how God spoke in a dream. And he spoke once. And the Bible says, and even twice, it says, but man perceived him not. That means now, as it relates to this lesson, is that God is always speaking to you to get you from one place to another. But because of all the noise, because of all the challenges that are around you in the spaces that you live, you don't perceive that it is God that is talking to you to help you to get out of where you are. And so at the end of the day, what you come up with is that God ain't talking to me. And then you go to your pastor and you want some clarity about a dream that you had, or you want some clarity about a scripture that you read. And that's all, that's fine and good. But the bottom line is what the word is saying, and what this book will help initiate in your life is a is a starting platform for you to be opened up for God to speak to you. Because the reality is God has already spoken to you and told you what to do. It's just that you didn't perceive it. And so you went on. And sometimes we can be going on and on and on. And it could be 5, 10, 15, 20 years. This is the reason why the word says that God had said to Abraham, get thee out. It's like there's never a time, because God is too good. You got to think about this. He's too good not to lead you and guide you into all truth. The issue is never with God. The issue is always with man. And so you're having a problem with your hearing. You're having a problem with your perception. You can't receive of him because there's too much mess that's going on around you. And so you spend, 10 years working through mess that's keeping your ear gate plugged up, right? And so let's continue to look at this. So a spiritual father also has to be evaluated at different intersections or different junctures in your life to see whether or not that is the father that you should be seated with or by, because they may not be. And, gone is the day where you just sit, and this has become very problematic for a lot of us, that we just sit in bondage year after year after year up under the same church, the same ministry, the same voice. And that voice, sorry to say, is no longer relevant. But we're there because of loyalty. We're there because of this is just what I've always done. That's played out. You got to do better. God is never stagnant. God is always moving. God is the same yesterday, today, and forevermore, but we're not. So just because you find a church and you get saved does not mean that 20 years from there, you're supposed to still be in that church. That church may go through something that is not for you. Okay. And so you always have to have your antennas up to figure out, where should I be right now? Okay. So spiritual fathers need to continually be evaluated. Now, this third one and the fourth one, I'm not even going to deal with, because the real father is your spiritual father, which is your heavenly father, which is Jesus, which is God. But we all know that. And so I'll touch on that later. But this other father that is so rooted and connected to your life is the devil. The devil is the father of all lies. He is the accuser of the brethren, according to Revelation. And what he will do is he will put you on notice. And he will have you going in circles. He will have you in the wilderness. He will have all kind of things that's attached to you. And so he is responsible for the demise. For the most part, he is the creator for all this stuff that's going on. I can't say that he's necessarily responsible, because once you know God, it is up to you to come out from among that which you are tied to, tethered to, connected to, and be separated. But many of us don't know how to, and we become inert Christians. That means that we are ineffective. Because we want somebody to do it for us, to speak on our behalf, to get the Bible and pray, get the Bible and read it for us, to pray us through a situation, to continue to go to the altar and get prayed for week after week after week for the same thing, not understanding that perhaps you're supposed to deal with that particular thing. Maybe it's God's grace that he wants you to understand, to learn from, that he's going to see you through, and that you won't be delivered out of it, but you'll be delivered in it. And so sometimes we don't come into a saving knowledge of that, and that becomes very, very problematic. And so the enemy, anyway, he is the progenitor of these areas in our lives that keep us in a very crippled condition. Okay, so let me take a breath here. Come up for air. Since I'm at the table, I might as well drink a little tea. All right, so today's lesson is going to be about departure and coming out of thy father's house, but I want to talk about it from a centralized perspective. I want to talk about it and challenge your hearing today from a diet perspective. Again, I can't say this enough. You have to what's the word? It just left me. You have to know patterns. You have to study patterns. That's what I wanted to say. You have to study patterns in your life and in your family's life. This is the only way that you're going to know what lamb is for or according to your father. It's the only way. Now, historically, especially as you look at how we have been cultured, we were, according to history that has been taught to us and that we know, we was brought here from Africa, and we were enslaved, and our enslavement put us at a disadvantage. And with that disadvantage, we have learned how to survive on the scraps of the land, the stuff that ain't been no good. We've learned how to survive on hog maws, better known as chitlins. Massa and them had all the good stuff, and whatever slop was left over, then they gave that to the slaves, to the slave house, and you had to make do with that. That's the reason why black folks are such good cooks. They are good cooks. It's not so pronounced that black folks are very good chefs, but it is highly pronounced, polarized, that black people are very good cooks. That is to say that the recipes that we use from mama, from grandmama and them, all that, they are going to be extremely tasty, and they're going to be comforting. It's we are renowned for comfort foods. So I want to talk a little bit about that today, and as it relates to departure, because one of the things, messages that I promised to you, and hopefully I'll get to it on Sunday, is thorns and thistles. Now, when we look at departure and we look at this isolated subject, which is diet, we're going to talk about being departed from the diet of our Father's house. That is to leave. A lot of us can't leave because of all the salt that's in it. And if you tell me to take another diet, I can't take that because you ain't got enough salt in it. I can't leave this diet because this diet is full of fat. And when we talk about fat, we talk about carbohydrates, we talk about potato chips. When I was in Mansfield, they had this place called Jones Potato Chips, and Jones Potato Chips is still, in my opinion, the best chip in the world today. And I had chips from all over, but these are what is called fats. So you have fats mixed with salt. And then you have certain proteins. So you're gonna have that hog and my bacon and all this stuff. And so I'm going somewhere. So God says to Abraham, He says, I need you to depart your father's understanding, your father's learning, your father's ways, your father's environment. Now, y'all hear what I'm saying, because I'm really trying to help you, and I had to go around the mulberry bush in order to do this. Why? Because it ain't being taught. So as it relates to departure from our diet, there is a difference from good food and healthy food. There's a difference between good food and tasty food. I was talking to my son, and I was telling him about when I was in London, and I said, hey man, I said, you got to go. I said, it'll blow your mind. I said, the food is so different. I said, it's healthy. I said, you can have sweets. Their sweets over there is different than our sweets because they don't have the same sugar. I said, it's how the earth, the ground yields the product and everything. I said, it's just totally different. And I said, when I was there, I said I could eat, a bunch of cakes and cookies and all that stuff. And I said, I didn't feel it. I said, it didn't make me sick. Nothing like, here in the States. I said, it didn't. I said, the food was different. It was the same way when I was over in Italy. And so, we were talking, and I challenged his thought, because he said one thing I'll never basically, ingest. I won't really take to heart from you is when you talk about eating good food. And, because he said, you can eat anything, the food that you eat ain't good. And I said to him, I said, I don't know if you've ever had good food. I said, you've had tasty food, but I don't know that you've ever had good food. Now, hear what I'm saying. I'll be through here in a minute. Because good food is going to take you on a different journey. It's going to take you on a health journey. Tasty food will put you in the hospital. Tasty food will elevate your blood pressure. Tasty food will clog up your arteries. Tasty food will shorten your lifespan. That's tasty food. Tasty food will have you with a big gut and feeling terrible all the time. Tasty food. A place where there's no understanding. When God tells Abram to get thee out of thy father's house, he is also telling him that I need you to get to a place to be informed. I need you to get to a place where you can learn. I need you to get to a place where you can live. I need you to get to a place where you will prosper. You won't prosper from this place. This place is going to kill you. I say this, or I have said this, and I'll say it again. My ex-wife was a tremendous cook, but she was raised by her mom. Her mom was raised by her mom, whoever that was. And it was passed down to cook a certain way. I'll never forget when we first got together, and she got, at that time, we teenagers, and she lost her mom at an early age, and she had to start on her own early, and we ended up moving in together, for a minute. And I remember the first, it was actually the second meal, because the first meal she cooked for me was at the house she grew up in. This is shortly after mom passed. But then she cooked for me again. I'm talking about memorable meals. And she cooked potatoes, boiled potatoes, and then you mash them. And she had pork chops. And it was just, the meal was off the chain. And it was full of butter. And it was full of salt. And she was a soulful soulful cook. My family grew up, my kids grew up on a soulful diet. My son right now, he's going to have a lot of problems with whoever he marries because he's so used to his mama's cooking. Am I saying that it was all wrong? Am I putting her down? No, I'm not. What I'm saying is that we become a product of where we come from. And so now when God is calling you to a different place, sometimes it becomes very challenging for you to leave. And so what my son said to me, he says, I have to question you. He undermined my interpretation of good food because it wasn't his interpretation. And I challenged him. I said, the food that you like is tasty food. I said, and I like tasty food too. I said, but you got to understand something. I was built different. And sometimes you look back on life and you wonder, why didn't the marriage last? And why did this happen? And why did that happen? God didn't heal me, but he also didn't allow me to continue to stay in a space. And it wasn't his fault, but he just didn't allow me to stay in a space that if I would have stayed with that diet, I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't. I had a heart attack at the first heart attack. They call it cardio event, if you want to call it that. I was 27, I believe it was. But anyway, that's a different story. A lot of that though was based upon my diet. And at that time, I didn't know any better either, because my mom was a soulful cook as well. Not as soulful, but she was a soulful cook. And so we have grown up, and this has been very problematic in the African American community, that we have embraced certain lifestyles that God is calling us to depart from. When he tells us to depart from that, it's not just a departure that is hollow. It is a departure that is to be filled with an understanding of, okay, God, if you want me to depart from this diet because I don't know long term, I don't know how my body is made up and all that, and you want me to eat healthy, show me, teach me. And so God will take you out of one place into another place, and now he's going to give you books. He's going to start talking to you about ingredients. He's going to start talking to you about herbs and spices and the land, the earth, all these types of things that to a fault we have as an African American community, because that has just not been a part of our makeup. Now, I know y'all thought that I was going to drop a big bomb, and I'm dropping a bomb to help you to live. And it's a part of my book, While Man Slept. And I don't want you to sleep on this part, because a lot of us today are dealing with autoimmune deficiencies. We're dealing with heart issues. We're dealing with high blood pressure. We're dealing with stroke. We're dealing with diabetes. We're dealing with a whole lot of health challenges. And most of that is coming from our diet. It's coming from our diet. And a lot of that is coming from laziness. That's coming from mama and them, daddy and them. It's coming from their house. And so you have to take a lamb. A lamb, according to your father's house, will educate you. So in churches don't teach this. When I go to churches now, you go to some churches call it fellowship halls and all that stuff. And when you go in there and, different events and stuff like that, what they bring to that hall for everybody, whatever the occasion celebration is, it's going to be food from the culture. And so you're going to have the same stuff, chicken fried in Crisco and lard and all that kind of stuff. You're going to have all the stuff that we grew up on, right? Sugar. You get candy yams ain't nothing but candy. The yam part is gone. Okay. And don't even mention what they did, the folks that are greedy, the farmers, our system, or the way things are structured, what they did in order to promote growth in the ground, what they did to the ground, all that stuff. Now we got to come into an understanding and a saving knowledge that we have to come against this stuff and say, what can I do to promote my life and make my life better, more sustainable? So you can start thinking better, more clear in the whole nine that goes with that. So it's a diet. It's a diet now that we have to incorporate. And this is just one area of our lives that we need to depart from and come out from your father's house. So y'all didn't see all this in that, but this is a departure. See, where we relegate the word of God to leave. God told Abraham to leave, and once you get to a certain place, you will know it when you get there. I'll get to a place that I'll show you, and you'll know it when you get there. And we think it's all this mountain, or leave from Houston and go to Utah. No, that's not what this is. We have to become more spiritual minded. We have to be able to absorb revelation. We have to be educated. We have to have more knowledge. And the church is failing in knowledge and understanding. Again, Hosea 4:6, my people are destroyed for a lack of knowing, a lack of knowledge. Destroyed for a lack of it. And not only is my people destroyed, you will not just destroy the ones that you can see, you will destroy the generations that come after you. There's nothing to pass on. I keep saying, what will we leave the children? We got to leave them more than big booties that's got shots in them and injections of fat and boobs that are, tremendous abnormal sizes, fluffed up lips, extensions, clubs, twerking, the latest dance. We've got to leave them something that they can live by. That's the reason why in Exodus 16, God informs Moses to tell Aaron to get an ephah. I forget exactly this container. Get this, and he says, put so much bread into this, and I'm going to preserve the bread. He's not just the bread in there, but there's got to be a function behind it. Put it in for what? He says, put it in for the generations to come so they can ask questions. So they can say, what, mom, dad, what meaneth this? My question to you today is, what are your children asking you? What do they see? What God are you leaving for them to see? How was my life preserved? How did God sustain me with MS my whole life? How did he keep me? How do I know the God of more than enough? How did I experience a God that brought me out of the wilderness? How did I experience a God of protection? How did I experience a God that he would supply all my needs according to his riches and his righteousness and glory? How did I experience that? Talk to the children about that. God will give you, this is the reason why he said, give us this day our daily bread, because he didn't want you to get so dependent upon storing up, because once you do that, you lose sight of the provision of God. And so God is in the business of developing you so you will be earthly good and spiritually good for your family, for the next generation, for your community, for your church to pass something on. We're not doing that. as an overarching thought or comment. We're not doing that. I'm not saying that carte blanche, but most of us are not doing that. And so the children are confused. All they know about is how to gangbang. They know how to carry a Glock. They know how to load it. They know how to stick up somebody. They know how to lewd. It's all this stuff. And we're focused on the minors. And as a result of that, we major in the minors and we minor in the majors. We've got to get our focus back on God. This is all a deterrent. Is something what's going on in the world today is something to keep our attention off of the plan of God, the strategy of God, where God is at now, where he's trying to get to next, because he wants you to focus on Black Lives Matter. He wants you to focus on Me Too. He wants you to focus on politics. He wants you to focus on the Democrats, the Republicans. He wants you to side. He wants you to focus on hate. He wants you to focus on what you consider to be love, which is nothing but emotions. For the most part, he wants you to focus on all that stuff because all that stuff envelops you. It's about you. And get your mind, your focus away from what concerns God. I'm not done with this word. I'm just out of time. Okay. I want you to be blessed. Don't forget, you can get this book on Amazon and on Kindle. It is less than a combo meal, less than $10. It's $10 on Amazon, and it's $7 in electronic form on Kindle. Get the book. The book will help set you free. It's a manual. It is not thorough. I'm going to come back with something much more thorough because I left a whole lot on the table, and I'm giving you a lot of the stuff that I left on the table that I should have put in the book. But if you listen to me, if you follow the series, it will connect a lot of dots that the book introduces, but that's all it does, is it gives an introduction. And the reason why I did it, because I wanted to make it a quick read, and I wanted people to, I didn't want it to be laborious. That means that, it takes you, 5-10 days to read it. I wanted, you can read this book in an hour, hour and a half. Okay. Y'all be blessed. Know that I love you. The Lord loves you so much more. I want you to subscribe if you have not. I want you to give it a thumbs up. I want you to share it. And again, did I add a link? I got to start putting my link to YouTube in my Facebook, because I want everybody to start going to YouTube and follow me on YouTube. It's fine if you do it on Facebook, but Facebook stuff will be deleted. And so YouTube is a safer place for me right now. So go to YouTube and you can find my series there, and all my messages will be there. All right. I love you. Until next time.